Hey Canucks fans, welcome to Clay's Canucks commentary for Thursday, September the 27th. I'm Clay Emo at Canuck Clay on Twitter. I'm at Clayton Emo on Instagram, and this is my Canucks take, all in one take. It's Thursday, that means I had my early morning workout. That's why I'm dressed like this today. Hope it doesn't distract you either in a good way or bad way. I'm pretty sure it won't. Today I want to talk about one important facet of the Canucks, that would be their goaltending. Question right off the bat, what do you expect of the Canucks goaltenders this year? What sort of stats do you expect? And are they going to be any good is the bottom line. We know it's going to be Jacob Markstrom as the starter. We know it's going to be Anders Nilsson as the backup. We know Thatcher Demko will be the first option, the first call-up from Utica. I expect to see, whether it's because of injuries or poor play, I expect to see Demko up this season, whether that's for a 5-game stint, 10-game, 15-game, whatever it may be. But simply, Demko hasn't done enough in preseason to warrant him beating out Anders Nilsson for the backup job. So what sort of play do we expect from our goalies this year? We know that Jacob Markstrom has 2 years left on his contract. Anders Nilsson only has 1 year. He becomes an unrestricted free agent after this season. And I bring this up because obviously, we can look at the forwards, we can look at the D, we can look at the goalies. Those are the three main aspects. And we know that on D and the net, the Canucks aren't really going to be any different than last year. We're expecting the same D core of Edler, Tanev, Stetcher, Hutton, Goodbranson, Delzato, with Pulia, Biega, and outside Chancellor Levy. So we know the D is going to be the same, and we know the goaltending is going to be the same, for better or for worse. And I bring up this goaltending issue because I've seen 2 articles in the last 3 days talking about goaltending throughout the league, and both lists have the Canucks basically right at the bottom. So the Athletic did a story, and they kind of a story where they put all the goalies into tiers: top tier, middle tier, bottom tier, whatever it may be. And then it's a poll of basically 10 people, 5 GMs, 3 coaches, and 2 goalie coaches throughout the league, anonymous of course. And then they just rank starting goalies. So Jacob Markstrom, out of all 31 starting goalies, he came in at number 29. So third to last. The only guys that were underneath him were Robin Lehner of the Islanders and Scott Darling of the Carolina Hurricanes. So not elite company. Obviously, you're not going to have elite company when you're ranked third worst in the entire league. So do you think that's a fair ranking? Jacob Markstrom at 29th. I know we had big hopes for him. He was basically the key piece in that Roberto Luongo trade many, many years ago, with the hopes that Jacob Markstrom would indeed turn into a bona fide starter. And after playing for 2 or 3 years behind Ryan Miller, then it became Jacob Markstrom's net. Then you go to ESPN. They did a ranking of all the goalie tandems, so not just the starting goalie, but then you throw in the backup. And in this, they weren't ranked 29th. They were actually ranked 30. So second worst in the entire league, and the only same 2 teams actually that are surrounding them. The Islanders in this list were ranked 29, Vancouver Canucks 30, and then Carolina, once again, bolstered by Scott Darling, or not bolstered by Scott Darling, came last in the league. So Carolina's goaltending came in last in both polls, and then for the Canucks, as a starter, Markstrom came in 29th out of 31 in the Athletic, and then as a tandem, Markstrom and Nilsson came in 30th out of 31 on ESPN. Canucks fans, do you think these are fair rankings? Do you think these are accurate rankings? When they're on the top of their game, both the guys, they're both big, right? Markstrom 6'5", Nilsson 6'6". So you look at their size; they aren't simply going to be the most agile goalies in the world, but they are going to obviously go a lot with their positioning and being more a calm presence in net, not working on angles, but also not being too aggressive and not overcommitting, and just using the sheer size of their bodies to help with a lot of the base saves, so to speak. We also know there's a new goalie coach, right? Dan Cloutier is gone. Now it's back to Ian Clark making his return to the organization after almost a decade away. So now Ian Clark is working with guys like with all of them, with Markstrom, with Nilsson, with Demko, and maybe tweaking some of their techniques as well. So there's that option. I mean, there's that variable as well. And of course, there's a variable. The Canucks aren't going to be very good this year. They're going to have trouble scoring. We've talked about that ad nauseum. The defense, as I mentioned, is going to be the same core as last year. Not a strong core, waiting for Quinn Hughes, waiting for Olli Juolevi to make that step. But that's a little bit down the road. So then, really, what are we looking at for Markstrom and Nilsson? How many games do you think they'll play? Is it going to be like a 50-30 split, 55-25 split, or do you throw in Demko and maybe it becomes a 50-20-10? Whatever numbers you come up to make 82, what do you think the starts are going to look like? What do you think the stats are going to be like? Are we going to get Markstrom ended off the season but with a strong run where his save percentage was close to 920, are we going to get more of a 900, 910 save percentage, which we know isn't good enough to win in the National Hockey League? And what do you expect for goals against? Is it going to be in the high 2s, at 2.6, at 2.7, at 2.8? A far cry from the elite goalies who are in the 2.00 range. So I'm not a huge goaltending expert. My cousin Dusty's a goaltending coach, which is cool. So I can talk technique, but I'm not big. I can't rattle off goalie stats off the top of my head. But I'm interested, for those of you that do follow goalies and do like to get into these things, what do you expect? What do you expect in terms of how many games will each guy start, and what do you expect from predicting their goals against average, and of course their save percentage, the two important numbers that we look at, and I guess wins too. How many wins is each goalie going to get? Are we going to get 25 to 30 wins out of Markstrom, another 10 or 15 out of Nilsson? That adds up to 40 wins already. I'm not sure we're going to get that many. Canucks fans, leave a comment below. I'd love to know. And then lastly, when you look at Markstrom and Nilsson, it's such a far cry from the tandem we had in 2010, 2011, 2012 of Roberto Luongo and Corey Schneider. Like, easily the best probably right up there with Boston, is the best goaltending tandem in the league, and that was almost 8 or 9 years ago now. Now we fall into 29th or 30th, the opposite end of the spectrum. Maybe down the road, 4 or 5 years down the road, we rise again in these rankings with a combination of Demko and Michael DiPietro. But let's talk about that. We got years to talk about that. Today, talk about Markstrom, talk about Nilsson. What do you expect from them this season? How good can they be? And what sort of stats do you expect from them this season? And lastly, do you think Thatcher Demko gets up here? And how many games does he play this season? A lot of questions around this team. Let's focus our answers today, or your predictions, on goaltending for the Vancouver Canucks. All right, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Give this video a like if you like what I'm doing on this channel. Please leave a comment below. I always read, react, and reply as quickly as I can, but I will get to your comment for sure. And most importantly, enjoy the day. I better go shower and get changed for put my real work clothes on. Have a great day. God bless, and go Canucks go.